it's important, actually, it's not my personal opinion, but the personal opinion of Venezuelans. And that we happen to know a fair amount about. His popularity rankings are running about 80%. He's won after another election and referendum, despite very hostile media, strong opposition of the hemispheric superpower. The Latin American attitudes towards democracy and elected governments are quite carefully studied. There's an important Latin American research institute that studies them regularly. Support for democracy has been declining almost throughout Latin America, and the reasons are pretty well understood. It's not that people don't like democracy, it's that democracy is associated with neoliberalism, the imposition of the so-called Washington Consensus, and neoliberalism clearly undermines democracy. In fact, it's practically designed for that purpose. So sure, faith in democracy declines as the effects of neoliberalism increase. It's also an economic catastrophe for most people. But there are a couple of exceptions, and the leading exception is Venezuela. Since 1998, support for democracy has gone way up. It's now in the lead in Latin America. I mean, Venezuela is way in the lead in Latin America in support for the elected government. It's conducted by independent Latin American polls. Well, you know, all that tells you something. And it's not obscure why. I mean, you know, Venezuela is basically a very rich country. It's not only oil, but plenty of other resources. Leading oil producer in the hemisphere, one of the main in the world. But it's also an extremely poor country. For the majority of the population, it's bare survival. So here you have an extremely rich country, enormous wealth, highly concentrated, most of the population living in near misery. And finally, there's a government that's actually doing something for them. You can like him or hate him, but his policies happen to be, it's felt by the population that they've got the first government in the history of the country that's actually doing something for them.